Ooh, book review. Hey guys, I'm doing another book review. What I'm reviewing is Making Music 74 Creative Strategies for Electronic Music Producers, written by Dennis DeSantis, and it was published by Ableton. As a quick version, if you don't want to watch the whole video, because I've seen my metrics, I know people don't watch my whole videos, it slightly upsets me, but I can deal with that. This is a great book if you want something that helps you to kind of like unlock your creativity and get you out of a rut, because it does have some really good tips on how to get going. But what it doesn't necessarily do is talk about the process of creating music, any like really like basic stuff about making music and getting better at making music. And it doesn't really talk about the technical aspect of like mixing and mastering and anything like that. So if you wanted a book for that, you might want to give this a pass. But it is a really good book to have just as like a little read thing, so that if you're kind of finding it hard to get started or keep going with music, that you have something that can kind of give you some ideas on how to go further. So as a story on how I got this book, basically I'm notoriously difficult to buy presents for because I usually just buy everything that I want. So what I usually do instead, if I want a present, is I'll drop a completely obvious hint and then never buy the thing and then see if it shows up around like my birthday or Christmas. This showed up from my girlfriend as a Christmas present. I am very thankful to her for it. Now, as I said before, I tend to find books live in two categories, either dictionary like reference style books, or I find that they live in the other thing of like being a workbook that you kind of read from start to finish, and then it gets you through a project, and then by the end of it, you're pretty much good. Mixing Secrets for the Small Studio kind of fit in the middle, right up there. However, this firmly sits on the dictionary reference side of it instead. The way it's set up is actually pretty unique. I haven't really seen books that are like this before, and in fact, that's why I really enjoy this. This is split into 3 chapters: problems of beginning, problems of progressing, and problems of finishing when it comes to creating your song and arranging your song, right? And in those, you have like separate problems that are there. So if I open up real quick and pick an example of problems for beginning, jump cut, I've opened it and I've gotten to the page I want. So with the example of problems for beginning, it has things like 3 ways to start, choosing a tempo, personal workflow, etc., etc. And in those problems, it then has solutions, so ways and like methods to try and like get over those problems and get started with writing, for example, when it comes to the problems of beginning, or keeping going when it comes to the problems of progressing. Much like the previous book, Mixing Secrets for the Small Studio, what's great about this is even though it's published by Ableton, it isn't specifically targeted at users of Ableton Live. It's just targeted at electronic musicians, and it just so happens to be published by Ableton. So if you're using any other DAWs, or even if you're not using a DAW at all and you're just using a hardware setup with synthesizers and something to record it afterwards, this is likely going to help you out, as long as you're an electronic musician at very least. Now, of course, there are lots of techniques in here that you can use if you're not an electronic musician, but a lot of this stuff just kind of seems to make more sense if you use, synthesizers and stuff as opposed to guitars and so on. So, there you go. That's at least my opinion. I could be wrong. If you think I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. Yeah. Because this book is a lot more of a creative book, it's not really great if you want something that teaches you more technical stuff. So if you wanted to know more about, things like using automation to a good effect, or if you wanted to learn about, the secrets of compression or so on, that's not necessarily what this book is. That's when you'd kind of want either a mixing or a mastering book, or if you wanted to maybe look at those sorts of things like automation and stuff a bit more, the manual of your DAW instead, because surprisingly, a lot of manuals for a lot of DAWs are very good educational tools. Trust me, I've used them very often. So would I recommend the book Making Music? Yes. Kind of. It's a brilliant book if you already know how to create music but just get stuck in ruts sometime, or if you're kind of getting started, starting to get comfortable and want to give yourself a reference that's great to help you challenge yourself and go a little bit further. but it's not necessarily the best book to learn how to get started. If you really wanted to get started with that, you might want to look for resources on, getting started with things like music theory, or just, experiment in your DAW and just see what it is that you can find and mess around with. That would be a better option than using this book if you're at that sort of stage. Also, I'd add that this isn't the best book to have just on its own. I have this with Mixing Secrets, and together they kind of work really well, because if I have an issue with technique, it's very likely, if it's creative technique, making music is going to help me out. If it's something to do with my technique and my, technical stuff when it comes to mixing or mastering or anything like that, then it's likely going to be Mixing Secrets. That's the book that I'm going to go to. But yeah, I hope you found this book review useful. I'm actually thinking of doing some reviews of the iZotope ebooks. iZotope make plugins like Ozone 9 and Neutron 3 at the moment, at least, and also Neoverb. I really like Neoverb. But yeah, they also do some ebooks that talk about earlier versions of Ozone and Neutron, but talk about things like mixing and mastering. I might do a couple of reviews of those because they're actually free. And yeah, I thought it might be quite cool. If you want to see those, leave a comment, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe so that you get to see more about me, either making music on the go, or, talking about the TR6S and stuff that you could do with it, which I still don't know what other videos to do with it. Or if you just want to see me talking about some random stuff like how to make music with knitting needles, or just talking about spam emails with my friend Nick. Cool.